Awesome, we're on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome, thank you so much. Is Lizzie around? I hope Lizzie's around. I want to give a shout out to Lizzie Blackplume and Jimmy. I'm just going to let you know a little bit about them. Lizzie Blackplume is a proud member of the Blood Tribe. She is in her third year of studies in business management at the University of Lethbridge, and she is also a member of the Community Futures Treaty 7 Student Advisory Committee. Jimmy, come and stand here, both the two of you. Jimmy Weaselchild is from the Siksika Nation. He graduated from Mount Royal University with a degree in history. And he recently joined the Community Futures team this last fall. So I want to get both of them to say hi, and I don't know if they want to share a few words. They both have been working unbelievable. I don't even think either of them got sleep this weekend, and and studied up. So I have two gifts for you, and I just want you to say hi and share a couple of words before we go to our keynote. So this is for you, and this is for you for all your hard work. And go ahead.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Me and Hannah spent a lot of time doing the interviews on Saturday and Sunday, so that's how we spent our Valentine's Day, was organizing all of those. But I'm so excited for all the students and all the employers to have their interviews, and I just hope everyone has a good time these next 3 days, and good luck. Thank you.
Round of applause. Well, I'm kind of tall, so I have to go a little lower. But Okinadanaku, my name is Jimmy Weaselchild, as Loa just said. I just want to say thank you to everyone who did a lot of hard work behind the scenes and everything, and the people who aren't here, like the committee, and everyone did a great job getting everything together. And and also for everyone to bear with me. I just recently learned Remo, and so I'm kind of the tech guy on the side, and I never really used all this different stuff before, the pandemic, as most people. So I had to learn a lot of this different stuff. So all of us were trying really hard in front of camera and also behind the scenes to make sure this event is going great. And so I want to say thank you for Community Futures for, letting me be a part of this event and also part of the team. I understand how tough it can be when you're trying to find work. Recently, the job I had before this, I got let go because there was no funding. So I understand the struggles and the worry of just trying to have, a job to pay the bills and everything. So I'm really glad that even with this pandemic going on, it shows how, we can persevere through any of the hard stuff happening in life, and it shows the strength that we have as Aboriginal people. So thank you and have a great day.
Thank you. Did you take your gift?
Yep.
Oh, you did? Oh, awesome.
Thank you so much.
And I'm really thankful to Jimmy. Every single second I'm saying, Jimmy. So at this time, I would like to introduce our keynote speaker. Samuel Crowfoot was born the oldest of 6 children to Strata Crowfoot and Ellen Crowfoot. His parental grandparents are Cecil Crowfoot and the late Cecil Crowfoot and the late Muriel O'Soup. His maternal grandparents are Philip Cook, the late Philip Cook, and Avril Summers. Arvilla Summers. Mr. Crowfoot is a graduate of the Utah Valley State College, Brigham Young University, and the University of Wisconsin Law School. Originally from Siksika, he spent the better part of his last 20 years living and working in the United States. After graduating law school, Mr. Crowfoot clerked for the Ho-Chunk Nation Tribal Court in western Wisconsin, where he focused on legal writing, research, and reported to the tribal court judges with justices. Upon completion of his clerkship, he accepted a position with the Hopi tribe in northern Arizona as a deputy prosecutor. While at Hopi, he litigated all types of crimes, including domestic violence, DUI, sexual assault, crimes against children, drug trafficking, and aggravated crimes of violence. He also represented Child and Family Services in their litigation of abusive and neglectful parents and guardians. After a short time, he was promoted to chief prosecutor and managed a team of lawyers and collaborated with various law enforcement agencies such as the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office. After Hopi, Mr. Crowfoot took a position with a national law firm in Phoenix, where after a few months he was offered a position with the Pueblo of Zuni Tribal Court as Chief Judge in Western New Mexico. As a judge, Chief Judge Mr. Crowfoot heard an array of criminal matters, including kidnapping, homicide, aggravated sexual assault, as well as civil matters such as child support, family law, child dependency, and probate. During his tenure, Chief Judge Crowfoot implemented alternatives to incarceration and, where possible, employed restorative justice practices, choosing to focus on recovery and healing and re-education. Mr. Crowfoot has served on various boards and school districts for nonprofits, community organizations. Currently, he is serving his first term as a counselor at Siksika Nation located in Alberta, where he works in areas of health, business, social services, public safety, and land claims. In addition to being an enrolled member of the Siksika Nation, Mr. Crowfoot is also of Oneida, Soto, Akwesasne, and Armenian descent. Recently, he was given the name Spotted Eagle by Eve Yellow Old Woman. Currently, he lives in Calgary with his wife and 4 children. And with that, I would like to welcome him to the stage.
We'll add the applause in post.
Add the applause in post. Great, great. Lizzie, can you please bring up my my slide, please, my presentation? Okay, put it in presentation mode. Perfect. Let me see if I do this right. Okay, there we go. Okay, thank you everybody for tuning in and taking time out of your Tuesday back from the long weekend. It's a little bit difficult to know how to approach these events because I've been asked to speak before many times throughout, and up until this year, it's always been in person. And when you're in person, you can, feel the energy off the crowd, and the audience can feel your energy and your excitement. So it's a little bit hard to do that, to capture that same type of atmosphere when you're presenting online via Zoom, or via remote, and however else we do it. So I just figured the best way to make a connection is to just clear away all the accolades and all the things which you just read about me, and just to be honest, right? Just to be honest with you guys. When I'm speaking, just understand that, my experience is something that's worked for me. These are lessons I have learned, and my experience might differ somewhat from yours, but I'm hoping that you'll find something relatable and something that you'll be able to identify with and hopefully be inspired. When I asked Rob how he wants me to tailor it, he just basically said, be inspirational and try to motivate. So I'll try my best to do that. We'll see. My bio, which Loa just read to you, kind of gives a 30,000-foot view of who I am and what I've accomplished. But I feel the need to explain what my bio doesn't show you. I feel the need to explain to you the struggles and the journey and the bumps and bruises I experienced along the way. I was born in Utah. Provo, Utah. My father was a student at Brigham Young. I was the oldest of 6 kids. And I lived there for a time, but then I moved back. I moved to Siksika. I grew up in the Mosley and Arrowwood areas. I even lived in Hidden Valley Golf Course for a while, and on the west side. My childhood was anything but stable. You can see from this next slide, and something that's not shown on my bio is I attended 10 different schools from nursery school to grade 12. I am an alumni of Old Sun Nursery School. I went there in 1982. I attended a couple schools in Utah, elementary school. I attended elementary school in Brentwood. This was all before the 2nd grade. After that, I attended school in Mosley for grades 2 and 3. And then I moved to Arrowwood for the rest of grade 3 through 6. Then I was homeschooled for a year. Then I attended Samuel Crowther Junior High, and you can see the rest there. My father was chief of Siksika for many years, and in 1995, when he lost the election, we moved off reserve. We moved off reserve to Okotoks, and I attended Foothills Composite High School. I was there for 1 year, and moving my grade 12 year, and just looking back at my time there as a high school student in Strathmore and in Okotoks, I realized I wasn't. My grades weren't very good, and I didn't have the skills needed to excel at a higher level. My parents were busy taking care of my younger siblings, as you can see in this picture here. They had the stress of moving off reserve to Okotoks with 6 kids, starting a new job, and just a lot of things kind of got lost in the shuffle, and I felt like I was overlooked in a lot of ways. No matter though, because I ended up serving a Mormon mission for the LDS Church in Las Vegas, Nevada. And so honestly, my post-secondary education kind of took a back seat for 2 years. And from the ages of 19 to 21, I was riding on bike in Las Vegas in the summertime, trying to do what missionaries do. When I returned home from my 2-year mission, I bounced back and forth between Mount Royal University, or at that time it was Mount Royal College, and Utah Valley State College in Utah. I was in and out of a toxic relationship, which took a major toll on my mental health, and I was defeated, felt uncertain about what I wanted to major in, and I had no real direction. And my grades, even in college, were a reflection of my struggles. Between returning home in 1999 from Las Vegas and starting school at UVSC in 2002, I struggled. I really did. And I thought about a lot of things. A lot of dark thoughts came to me. A lot of struggles that I thought were insurmountable, I was dealing with. Eventually, I don't know what it was. Maybe it was maturity. Maybe it was just things started finally to click or whatever. But right around the age of 24, I got serious and really started to earn higher grades at Utah Valley State College. Not super high, but it was enough to make the dean's list some semesters. And I got a taste of what it took to be successful at that next level. But it wasn't all fun and good memories at UVSC. I had a professor at UVSC. She was teaching a public speech class, and her last name was Savage. And as I was getting up to present before the class on a presentation, I was actually presenting on how to say hello in different Indigenous languages. And as I was getting up there, she asked what my last name was. I introduced myself. Hello, my name's Samuel Crowfoot. I'm from Siksika. And she goes, "Oh, are you Native?" And I said, "Yeah." She said, "Are you Indian?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Hey, I'm a Savage too." And the whole class started laughing at me. Class of about 50 people. The entire thing caught me off guard. And I bombed the presentation. I didn't get a good grade on the mark, I didn't get a good mark on my project, and I didn't know what to do. I felt stupid. And as the semester went on, I didn't know how to bring this up to the teacher. I didn't have those skills to advocate for myself and how I was feeling and how her comments made me feel. I was already one of the only people from Siksika in the area attending school. I had a few other cousins there, which were a bit of a support. But I just didn't know how to handle myself in that type of situation. And because I didn't say anything, people almost thought it was okay to make jokes like that. And they continued in that class throughout the rest of the semester. My college and university years, I had numerous experiences like this peppered throughout. Countless conversations came in some shape like this, which you see here on the left, or my left. I don't know how it looks to you, but my left, where someone asked me what my last name was, asked me where I'm from. I would tell them where I was from, and the next question, almost before I could get an answer out, was, "What are you?" I didn't understand what they meant. And then they said, "Is Crowfoot an Indian name?" "Yes." "Oh, you must be Crow because of the word Crow in your name." I said, No, I'm not Crow. I'm Blackfoot actually. "Oh, because of the word foot." Doesn't work like that. and they would ask these questions. And whatever the format was, it always kind of came to the same conclusion. Are you a student here? I wish I could go to school for free like you and have it easy like you. And from my perspective, it wasn't easy. I was the first child from my family to go to college. And while my parents went to college, I didn't really talk about college with them a whole lot. My dad was busy being chief and doing his work, and my mom was busy with raising 5 other children, essentially alone for a lot of it. I didn't have that community. So for me, it wasn't easy. And so when people would say that, I felt like they were belittling my experience. But I persisted, and I stayed enrolled. I graduated Utah Valley State College with an associate's in general studies. Nothing too exciting. But it was enough, and my grades were high enough for me to enroll at Brigham Young University. Brigham Young University is a Mormon-owned school located in Provo, Utah. They have a couple satellite campuses in Idaho and Hawaii. But basically, it's their flagship campus is in Provo, Utah. In the 70s, they had an open enrollment policy essentially for a lot of Native students. My father is fourth oldest of 10 children, and I think about 7 of them attended Brigham Young University. And it was at one point in the 70s, it was the school with the highest Native population, Native students in the entire country, United States. So it had a good reputation in helping people from where I was from. Around this time, I also was able to network with other Native students and to be able to establish a community. There weren't a whole lot of people from Alberta who attended school down there. My wife was roommates with a girl from Ghana. We're still close with her today. Her name is Kanzi Fox. If you know her, tell her I said hi. She and my wife were pretty good friends in college, and that's kind of how I met my wife. A lot of the students who I made contacts with were from the tribes down south. I was friends with a lot of Hawaiians and Polynesians. There was a lot of Lumbees attending Brigham Young University, a lot of people from Nebraska, from the Omaha tribe, from the Ute Nation, from the Hopi Nation, and then from the Navajo Nation. And I was able to kind of find myself in a sea of unfamiliar faces. I started to gain a little bit of confidence. But something that was common among all of us students was that we all had experiences where we experienced racism, either aggressive or passive in some shape or form. My experience, as like some of the ones I just talked about, were not isolated. But it also wasn't the worst thing that happened either. And some people a lot of Indigenous students dealt with that type of stress and that type of attitude in different ways. One of my friends from the Navajo Nation, his last name is Silent Walker. And we know as Indigenous people, our names are something to be proud of. There's stories behind it. There's meaning behind it. And a lot of times the beauty of it is lost in translation. And as was the case with his name. The Silent Walker was an English translation of what it meant in Navajo. And he became so frustrated in introducing himself that he legally changed his name from Silent Walker to just Walker. And while I never liked the idea of that solution, on some level I understood why he did it. For myself, I moved along in terms of life, and I started dating a girl from the Navajo Nation, and we got married, and she was the opposite of me, pretty much in every single way. I'm kind of the loud, extrovert, a little bit reckless, a little bit immature sometimes, but my wife was very studious and very focused, and we worked together as a couple. Not all the time, it wasn't always easy, but we worked together as a couple, and she helped me navigate university life. She was 2 years younger than me, but she had already graduated by the time I enrolled at Brigham Young University, and she taught me by example a lot of the studying, or what it took to be successful at the next level. She had, straight A's. She had scholarships to attend schools in Boston and things like that, and I was not that type of student. Check my notes here. We started a family fairly quickly, and with parenthood fast approaching, I also realized that taking up time in university was not a smart move. By this time, I was 26 now. I had essentially started when I was 23, like really started when I was 23, and there was still a lot I was behind in. I ended up earning a bachelor's degree eventually in political science from Brigham Young University. It was it's political science and international relations. And anybody who has a political science degree knows that by itself it is not very lucrative. You know, there's just certain degrees that stand alone don't offer the same type of opportunities as maybe a science degree or as a business degree. And so, you know, these were things I was learning. I was able to somehow leverage a position in Switzerland for a semester to work for the United Nations. And I was supposed to be there in official capacity, and I was for a lot of it, but because English was my first language and a lot of the people who worked there at the United Nations were old and English was their third or fourth language, I ended up just doing a lot of proofreading and teaching people how to use PowerPoint. But the experience leaving Canada, leaving the United States, two areas where I spent most of my life, and traveling to another country to live for a few months and having toured Europe and just been exposed to those different experiences that not a lot of people get, I think helped shape myself in a lot of ways. Things were looking better. And with my political science degree being what it was by itself, I knew I needed to step forward if I was to, you know, to be able to support my family in a way. So I was dead set on attending law school. But I knew that if I applied to law school, the legacy of my bad grades from my early years when I struggled would come along with me. It's not something you can kind of leave at the door. When you apply to law school, when you apply to the Law School Admissions Council, they want everything that you've done, everything you've taken. And so I was sending them transcripts from Utah Valley State College, Brigham Young University, Mount Royal University. You know, that was part of the process. Because my grades were so because my grades were so bad, I was looking to supplement my resume and beef up my application by getting some work experience, right? This was in 2007 now, and part of my job was part of my mission was to be able to make myself more attractive for law schools. I applied in 2007 via email probably to about 40 jobs a week. Anything that would help me look good on a resume, anywhere from environmental agencies, nonprofit organizations. And I received a series of callbacks from the Assembly of First Nations. It was for a position like legislative aid or something to that effect. I can't remember exactly. But that application process was intense. They sent me, as part of the application process, they sent me essay questions where I had to time myself and a window was open to submit it and just to see how I would type on the fly. And everything was going well. Talking with the executive assistants at the time, it looked like I was going to move to Ottawa. So I started looking for places in Ottawa to live through Craigslist and just other online forums that were available at the time. We were even talking about discussing movie expenses and travel budgets and things like that. But that final acceptance letter, that final offer never came. And I don't know why exactly. At the time, I didn't know why. This was in mid-2007. The recession was starting to take effect in the United States, and things were starting to free fall. As we've heard some people say here earlier today, I think the time in 2007 has a lot of similarities with what we're going through now. But a lot of funding dried up. A lot of budgets were scaled back. A lot of positions were just made non-existent anymore. And I think maybe to some extent, I was the victim of that. At least I hoped I was the victim of that. There was another reality, which I was a little bit scared to confront, is that, you know what? Maybe they didn't just want me. Maybe upon reviewing my application, my grades and my GPA and my resume, maybe it just wasn't good enough. And that's something I had to deal with, that feeling of rejection. And at that thought, I was angry, right? I was angry to try to do things better. I applied for jobs. No one was calling me back. By this time, I had graduated university with a bachelor's degree. and money was getting tight now. When I attended school, I was funded, and part of the funding was help going toward my living expenses. But when you graduate, you're not a student. If you're not a student, they're not going to fund you. So I had, by this time, 2 children, and I had to feed them. So with my bachelor's degree in hand, I had to take a job working for the county, the local county, as a landscaper and maintenance. I did a lot of snow removal. It's not something I saw myself. It's not something I saw myself doing. I was working with guys who barely made it out of high school. They were my age or younger, but they were my bosses, and they were making more money than me. And they were rubbing my failure in my face every chance they got, as if to say that even though I was educated, and even though I had a bachelor's degree from a fairly reputable university, a good university, look where I was now. And I was made to feel that I wasn't any good. And for some reason at that time, I could not shake the fact that maybe the fact that I was Indigenous had something to do with it. That was my thought process at the time. And I became angry at that. But the show must go on. One thing, I'm not the tallest, the fastest, the strongest, or whatever, the smartest, but I think I'm one of those people who just doesn't quit. I think I'm just gritty, scrappy like that in a lot of ways. Even though I was working for a job, I was way overqualified, 5'4", we were making ends meet. I really had to ask myself, what is my trajectory going to look like from here on out? I had to make do with what was around me. So I started out reaching out to friends and friends of friends to see if I could make something happen. There was this guy in town who was a lawyer, very good friends with my wife, pretty well respected. He was one of the first natives that I knew who was a lawyer, and I just thought he'd be a good resource to reach out to. He was from the same area as my wife, and so I asked him if he'd be looking to take on an intern where I could even just work for free or for very little. And he turned down my free labor. Didn't review my transcripts, didn't review my letters or my resume. He just said, no, sorry. And I respected it at the time. Later on, though, I found out he said something to a mutual friend who I have, I'm very close friends with and I trust with all my heart, that the real reason why he didn't hire me is that he wasn't impressed with me in the way I presented myself. And the fact that I was 28 now, and I didn't graduate on time with my bachelor's degree. He said something to the effect of how a lot of natives are lazy, and that I must be lazy because I was late in graduating university. That entire experience with him, again, made me angry. Before, when I encountered things like this, it was from non-natives. And you almost expect it from a certain degree. If it happens to you enough, you know where to expect it. And this is one of the first times where it was somebody who I thought was on my side, on my team, who understood my struggles and who walked the same path that I did. But it came from him. And that, I didn't know him super well, but I felt betrayed. I hated my job. I hated my situation in life. I hated that when I tried, every opportunity I pursued just fell flat. Things were getting tough with my wife, and I was just mad at myself for not majoring in business or pre-med or something like that to move everything along. I was second-guessing everything. But I knew law school would still be the goal for me, and I decided to move my application date up. And I started to look for opportunities that were local. And I kind of refer this to as my rocky phase when I talk to my kids about it. I knew that I didn't know anybody really who had gone through the law school application process, especially in the States. But I knew what I needed to do because I did have a few mentors I could look to and rely on. And without their help, things would have been a lot harder. In the early mornings, as soon as the BYU library would open, that's a picture of it there on the right, I would get up at 6 in the morning. I'd be there at 6 in the morning with another friend who was in the same boat as I was, looking to do well in the law school admissions test, and try to make our life better for ourselves. We get up every morning at 6, rain, snow, blizzard, whatever, and we would study for 2 hours in the morning at the library from about like 5:30 till about 7:30 every morning, even on weekends. And then I would go to my job as a landscaper. I would work a full shift and then go home and see my family, roughhouse with them a little bit, but then be up again late at night studying for the LSAT, working on my personal statement, trying to drum up some type of opportunity for me. I ended up volunteering with a lot of local organizations instead of getting a paid internship or something prestigious like the Assembly of First Nations. I just looked for more on the ground and what was accessible to me there. So I started mentoring Native youth groups. I started volunteering in schools, even giving out lunches and stuff, things like that. Just anything I could to help beef up my resume. And I learned a lot about service then, and I learned a lot about what it feels like to help people, to make them better, to build the community. And I liked the way I felt. And so, that was tough. At work, I remember riding lawnmowers, mowing these huge grass fields in Utah, and I would have my I couldn't afford an iPod when they first came out, so I had like this little JVC thing that kind of hung from my neck, and I could hold 10 songs, like 45 minutes worth of lecture on it. And I would drive around and I would just listen to the LSAT test, listen to the logic games and things like that. And that was my life for that year. As the LSAT became closer, as it approached closer and closer, it required me to study more and more. And so you see a picture here. That's my 1996 Honda Accord. Well, it's not mine, but it looks just like that. I ended up selling it just so I could. We had 2 cars. I ended up selling that one just so I could help make ends meet, just so I could support my family while I studied for the LSAT test. And that's what happened. That's what I did. I took the test. I did my best. I volunteered where I could, and I just focused on my law school application. There's 5 main components, and you can see here what it takes, at least at the time when I applied to go to law school, things I had to do. After the law school exam, I ended up applying to almost 20 different law schools, mostly in the U.S. My investigation of law schools, I looked into applying to some local schools here, such as University of Calgary, University of Alberta, and University of Saskatchewan. I actually ended up calling the University of Saskatchewan Law School first, just to inquire about applying, to see what the differences were as an American student coming back home to Canada. So I called a lady up at the school, one of the ladies who answered. And I introduced myself. Hello, my name is Samuel Crowfoot. I'm a recent college graduate. I'm interested in perhaps applying for the Saskatchewan Law School. She says, Crowfoot, are you Aboriginal? Yes. You need to take our pre-law program for Aboriginal law students. I was asking why. And basically she said, because all Aboriginal students have to take the program to see how they do and see if they'll do well, see if they will do well. I said, well, hold on now. I've already attended college. I've already attended. I've got some good internships and things under my belt. Do I really have to take the program? And she said, yes, all Aboriginal students do. And this whole conversation really put me off because I knew what she was saying without her actually saying it. She was asking me. She's basically telling me, we want to see if you're going to be able to handle it. And that whole experience, it really put me off. Anyways, I ended up taking the law school exam. I did well on it. Not as well as I did in practice sessions, but I did well, and it was enough for me to work with. Having quit my job, it didn't make sense to stay in Utah. So with that, my wife and I moved to Arizona, to Window Rock, where she was from. I moved in with my in-laws. And I became a substitute teacher by day. And in the evenings and weekends, I started carpet cleaning with a bachelor's degree, carpet cleaning. And I remember that time in my life because by this time my applications were in, and I was now starting to get feedback. Back then, schools would notify you by mail, and then they would send you a welcoming email welcoming you to the community. And they tried to time things. I remember walking into the post office many times just to check the mail. Every day it was like Christmas, just excited to see if something came. If something came, I was happy. Quite often, though, those feelings of happiness turned to rejection. I knew I was going to get some letters of rejection. I knew I was ready for it, but they kept coming. The first one was University of Oklahoma, which you can see here. The second one was, Penn State, University of Utah, University of Colorado, and even Loyola Marymount in Los Angeles. All good schools that I thought I was competitive in, but I was denied. And this had to be one of the lowest and stressful weeks of my life, just getting rejection after rejection. And then then one day something came from Michigan State in the mail. Let me see if I check my presentation here. Oh, let me back up a little bit, sorry. Something came from Michigan State, and that was my first acceptance letter to law school, which was a very good school. But their law school their offer of admission was conditional, that I only enroll as a part-time student, because they were hesitant about me for whatever reason. And I was happy to get an exception. I knew that if nothing else worked out, I could attend Michigan State and things would be okay. A week later, though, I received another letter of acceptance, and this was from the University of Wisconsin. And shortly after that acceptance, I received a letter informing me that I had qualified and earned a full-ride scholarship, essentially, to the University of Wisconsin Law School. When that came, it was like all those early mornings, all those struggles I dealt with were worth it to have that type of victory. And so things were going well. I went to Madison to attend law school, and I thought I had made it. I thought a lot of the journey was done. One thing I've realized is that, me being from Siksika, knowing who my family is and stuff, I didn't know any lawyers growing up. I didn't know anybody who did what I wanted to do. And when I got to law school, I could see these students who were essentially groomed from diapers to be where they are. Okay, to be where they are. Are you waving me on, or am I good? Okay.
Taking photos.
Okay, all right, good. But anyways, these students, their fathers were congressmen, they were senators, they ran multi-million-dollar companies. Their family were university professors, and just really big-time, politicians. They showed up to school in BMWs, and they had just everything. And I'm from Siksika. I didn't know anybody there at the school like me. I felt alone. I didn't know how to handle things. So I struggled for a little bit. It was a rude awakening. I wasn't groomed my entire life like some of these kids were. And I started at Old Sun. I attended Arrowwood School, and these guys attended the same schools as Ivanka Trump. And I went to Choate Rosemary, some of these really nice schools, and I felt out of place. My first year of law school was hell. In law school, they rank the years 1L, 2L, and 3L. In Canada, there's I think a fourth year of law school, but in the United States, there's usually only 3. And everybody called the 1L year 1L hell. I had about 4 classes at a time, and each class required about 100 pages of reading each week. So I was reading about 400 to 500 pages on things like property law, criminal law, constitutional law, torts and contracts, just general law subjects. And they threw so much at you because they wanted to see if you were able to handle it. I was in a small group of about 20 kids when we first started on day 1. And the end of the third year, at the end of law school, they were out. There was about 5. Okay, there was about 5 of them who flunked out, and I knew I wasn't going to be one of them. Going to law school was something great. I had great professors. I had great mentors. One of my mentors was one of the people who prosecuted Jeffrey Dahmer, the serial killer, the famous cannibal serial killer from Milwaukee. I was able to work with him and learn a lot about criminal law and a lot about how things happened in the process. In May of 2012, I finally graduated. And I think at the time I was the 4th lawyer from Siksika. And I was one of the first to attend in the States. And I just want to point out what you don't read in my bio are all the times I almost quit. You don't read about the time where I was crying or staying up late at night or trying to, catching the bus early in the morning to make it to the library to study. People think that success is a straight line, and it is. It really isn't. At least it wasn't for me. It's whatever you make it. My path, what it really looks like on the right. And maybe some of you can identify, some of you can write with it, but maybe some of you can't, So I'm going to close up here real quick. And I just want to leave you with 3 things, really. First, you have to find what motivates you, what truly motivates you, okay? For me, you've heard me say one emotion over and over again, and that was anger. And I hesitate telling you this to some extent, because I know as we're told as Indigenous and as First Nation people, a lot of the anger we suffer from the effects of historical trauma are things that we need to let go. And I definitely agree with that. But for me, at that time in my life, I was angry when I got these rejection letters. I was angry when I had these teachers and professors talk me to that way. So for me, I had to find a way to motivate myself. And that was something that really got me through. The second is that you have to be willing to do what others aren't willing to do. You have to be willing to go get up early in the morning. You have to be willing to apply to hundreds, well, maybe not hundreds, or maybe hundreds, it just depends on the climate, and prepare for rejection from either jobs or law school applications, right? And probably the third thing and most important thing is that you have to be comfortable with being the only Indigenous person in the room. Whether it's the classroom, the boardroom, the courtroom, the newsroom, or whatever, we as Indigenous people are underrepresented in the professional world. We really are. And when we are present in these situations, there are going to be many people who there will be many people who don't want us there or think we don't belong there. Don't listen to that. You belong where you want to. I have a little bit more to discuss, but this is kind of how things go. I stayed up late last night, and about 9 o'clock, I scrapped my entire presentation. I said, you know what? I just have to be real. I have to be honest. I have to let you know that it's not all sunshine and rainbows, My bio kind of picks up from there, and a little bit of what I've done. I just want to ask you guys, or just extend an invite. If you need somebody to ask questions to, please reach out to me. I've updated my information, I will update my information on the Remo. I had to do it a couple times. Reach out to me if you need somebody to look at your resume or just ask questions with. Please. It wasn't an easy road, and I almost didn't survive it. And I know there's people out there who feel the same way. And I'll just tell you guys you can. So thank you so much.
Don't leave.
I talk lots.
No, don't leave. We want people to ask questions.
Okay.
I don't know, Jimmy, if we've seen any questions, but I'm going to give you a gift while we're waiting for someone to ask a question.
Sure.
And we want you to open this
right
gift.
now?
Yes, but I also want to say a very good story. I'm really glad that my son and some other of my family, nieces and nephews are watching, and to hear your story. I always get motivated by people's stories, and yours is one that I've never heard. I didn't know that you were a judge. I knew you went to law school. I knew a few things about. I think I know your father more than I know you.
Most people do.
Yes. So open your gift. Did you open it?
Sure. No, I haven't. No,
Rob
I'm opening it right now.
Rob wants to see. And if you have any questions, we're going to not necessarily rush this, but go through questions.
Sure. Oh, good. It's a represent hat. I've got a big head, so I won't put it on. And socks.
And we're missing part
and
of the
they
gift.
match.
We are missing part of your gift. And then I have one from me. So open this
you
one.
do? Okay.
Yeah.
All
Where's
right.
this gift? we have a gift. You're going to come back on?
I'll come back.
Yeah, but you know what? Open this one.
Oh, open this one? Okay.
Yes, and then we have questions. I'm not sure what happened to
Oh, good.
the gift
Look at
that we
this.
have.
Some notebooks. Those are good.
Yes, some
Thank you.
professional notebooks.
Yes.
Yes. So we do have another gift for you. I know it's somewhere.
Okay. Well, that's good. You don't want me to.
There are some
It
questions.
says his gift is on the way, coming from Siksika. Good.
Oh,
Good.
okay. It is coming.
Good.
Okay.
Good. That's good.
But you have to stay
I'll
until
stick around.
then. And so, Jimmy, do we have any questions?
No, there's one.
Okay, we have one question. I'm going to get Jimmy to ask the question, then I'll let you answer.
Okay.
Our moderator.
Sure. Kelly asked the question. Was that it?
Yeah, tell her she was granted permission to use her camera. If she wants to ask you.
Oh, Kelly, you're granted permission to use your camera if you want to ask me in real life. If you don't, I can just read it.
Hear me?
Oh, there we go.
Here we go. Hi, Kelly.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So I was just wondering, you described many times when it was very difficult to keep going and how you did so. What inspired you to continue and to get where you are today?
You know, that's a great question, and that's a question I just can't I cry when I speak. I just do. I don't know why. Maybe I used to think it was a sign of weakness, but it isn't. But there was two things. I'm the oldest of 6 kids, and when I first started school, even though I wasn't a very good student when I first started, and I had a lot to learn, I knew I couldn't quit, because if I quit, then my 4 younger brothers and my sister would quit, right? Because I was the oldest of 6. So I knew that whatever I started, I have to finish. I have to, right? And it doesn't. Things don't happen perfectly the way you want them to all the time, or any of the time. But I knew I had my family there waiting for me, and I feel like my example kind of helped pave the road for them for a little bit. I have a brother who's just graduating dental school from Creighton University. I have another brother who's already graduated dental school and is specializing in pediatric dentistry, University of St. Louis, and they'll both be returning to Alberta within the next 18 months. They came after me. They saw the work I put in, they heard about it, and we worked together on a lot of things. And I knew that if I dropped out, it'd be easier for them to drop out. That was one of the things that kept me motivated. I'm stubborn though, Kelly, I'm stubborn. If I get angry at something, I'm more likely to stick with it than I am, for maybe altruistic purposes. So for me, it's just the anger of not feeling good enough too, right? Like certain motivations can take you certain distances at certain times, but the one constant thing for me is that I just hated feeling angry, and I hated feeling like I wasn't good enough. I'm proud of where I come from. I'm proud of my mother's side of the family, the Oneidas in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and I'm proud of my grandmother, who's Soto. But I'm from Siksika. My last name is from Siksika. I was raised on Siksika. I grew up playing basketball at the Deerfoot Sportsplex, and learning how to drive on axe flats and on the gravel roads by the canal. That's where I'm from, and I knew just our history is something that I had to take pride in. And we all think about our ancestors and our chiefs and our grandmothers and our grandfathers. We look at them with honor, and I just wanted to be one of those people that other generations would look back at me and think, well, he did it. His life is honorable, and that's kind of what I wanted. That's part of it. There's a lot of things that kind of motivate you. A lot of things get tough. That's some of it. So, should I just answer these questions on the chat?
Yeah, if she's done, I can take her down from station and bring her.
Sure.
next.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Okay.
Thank you, Kelly.
We'll take 2 more.
2 more. Okay.
Okay. There's Mark.
Okay.
Ask him if he wants to go on, or you just want to answer from here.
I can just, if we're kind of crunched for time, I can just answer.
Sure. Just.
Okay, all right. Mark asks, how do you share your Indigenous perspectives in the business world? Do you feel it's important? I definitely feel it's important. My cup of tea is prosecution and litigation. I've tried numerous trials. One of the things I've been most responsible for, the biggest case I did, is I was able to take a Hopi police officer who was having an inappropriate sexual relationship with a 12-year-old girl and put him in jail. That's one of the things that kind of helped establish who I was down south. I leveraged that into a job as a judge. And one thing I was able to do is I was able to employ traditional beliefs, customs, and values in giving out sentences. And so my perspective about where I came from and about where I was living, I wanted to incorporate that. I honestly feel like the legal system in the United States and in Canada is too colonized. It's not reflective of our culture. It's not reflective of who we are as people. And we have ways of dealing with conflict and resolution that are older than this country. older than the United States. And I think that we need to look back at that traditional wisdom and bring it forward. And that's what I tried to do. I have a couple cases I can talk about in depth later. It's kind of boring right now if you're not into it, but I think it's interesting. That's what I tried to do with Indigenous perspectives. Is my father Deb? No. No, my father's Strader. Deb is my uncle. What inspired me to run for council in Siksika? Essentially, I wanted to be able to help give back to the community. I was in school a long time, and I wanted to be able to come back and just help, just use my education to help Siksika. Since I've been on council, I've been able to speak in multiple forums on racism and police brutality. I've been able to argue for the health department in some of these Zoom meetings with Indigenous Services Canada. I've been instrumental in writing letters to ministers, things like that. Things that I learned in law school, just basic advocacy skills, or what I wanted to help do to come back to Siksika. So that's one of the reasons why I ran for council. How to inspire our youth not to always compare themselves to mainstream society? That's a good question. And then how can we come together to identify the strengths of our culture? I went to law school twice, unsuccessful by mainstream standards, but I see it as giving the knowledge that I believe in social justice. That's the thing. We look at movies and stories and things like that. And that's why I felt like it's important to tell my side of the story, is that part of the stresses and pressures that we feel as students, we bring on ourselves. I felt so inadequate and incompetent compared to some of these guys who attended, Dartmouth and Harvard and Yale as undergrad, right? They didn't come from where I came from. We just have to understand that our experience is our own, and it's different. And because it is our own, and because it's different, it doesn't mean it's wrong. This is where we're from. This is where we're supposed to thrive. This is where we're supposed to be. So there's a lot that goes into that, and I want to thank you, Nori, for asking that question. And I think that's it.
Yeah,
right?
We'll take a 10-minute. We're going to go into conversation mode. Oh yeah, and we need to clap. The two of us that are in here. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I'll update my
Yes.
profile. I had to do it again.
Well, and the other thing I was going to say is you could sit at his table that we have up there, and
Sure.
you could still chat with him and still ask him questions.
Okay, I'll jump in one of these rooms here.
Yeah, that
Okay.
sounds great.
All right.
Thank you very much. I'm extremely inspired. And the time is 11:15. We're going to go for 10 minutes into conversation mode. So please continue your conversations and take a quick break before our panel.
There was Q&A. Senate, Leadership Chair, Senate.
I love it.